This is the Fantasy Huddle. I'm Randy Shaver along with Kevin Gorg. This show presented by Aquarius Home Services in the Aquarius Home Services studio, 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Maplewood and Wyzetta. Gorgie, where are you today? Looks like you're lost in translation somewhere out east.
I'm bunkered in the city of it's called Jersey City, so it's perfect. We got a hotel here right in the heart of it. Wild play tomorrow night against the Devils. We're recording this on a Tuesday, and we've been kind of planes, trains, and automobiles. We've been moving all over the East Coast and a couple of cool train rides, and today it was just a bus ride in from the big city.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's talk fantasy football here. We were talking previous to starting this, teams on the rise, teams that are now starting to make some noise, some moves. Who's top of your list?
Well, the Bengals come to mind. I mean, we were all against them early in the year, and
after the Burrow injury, for sure.
Yeah. When Browning took over, it was just a disaster, and now they found something in Joe Flacco. And the two stud receivers are starting to put up the numbers we used to see with Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase is such an unbelievable weapon, and then Chase Brown didn't get in the end zone, but he was averaging nearly 10 yards a carry. So it's opening up everything in the offense for the Bengals. The other team is Kansas City. I was not a big Mahomes guy at the start of the year, but now that the weapons are back and healthy, and Rashee Rice at the top of that list, both Kansas City and Cincinnati are two teams that I want to get a bunch of shares of if you're playing guillotine, if you're playing daily. And then the other team to keep an eye on now as they start to get healthy is the Baltimore Ravens.
Of course, Lamar Jackson is supposed to be coming back maybe even this week. Back to Chase Brown for a second. I think he went over 50 yards on the ground for the first time all season. So it's been that kind of year, has it not?
It has. Yeah. It has.
A team that I would put on this list that is surprising to me, the Colts, man.
Oh, wow.
The Indianapolis Colts and Danny Jones and wow. I mean, them in Seattle. And of course, it's the two former Viking quarterbacks leading the way in Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. But you got to give both teams credit. They are playing some very good football right now. Let's talk about the Vikings briefly, because that'll be your first game. The Vikings, of course, play on Thursday night against the Chargers. So it's a short week of preparation. Sounds like Wentz is going to be back at quarterback this week. What's your take? I know that a lot of people upset that Hawkinson, they thought, caught that ball in the end zone. That would have changed some things, but it just was not a good outing for the Vikings in general. What's your takeaway?
I'm with you. I'm not even sure it would have changed the outcome. And I actually agree with the call for what it's worth. And listen, the Vikings right now just can't get everything moving in the same direction. They've had so many injuries on the offensive line, and teams are trying to take away Justin Jefferson. I thought the Eagles did a really good job in layering the defense against JJ there. And, Wentz is okay. But I think what you see with Wentz is he's got to get rid of that ball quick. And so it really takes away the deep threat. And so for fantasy purposes, I think you have to take all those Vikings down, and you got to take them down a notch. Now, I like Jordan Addison. There seems to be a budding chemistry there. And I think because of the defense that they're being provided against Justin Jefferson, he's getting some singles and he's making the most of it.
Just one thought for me. The Vikings, it felt like, had to continue to play kind of catch up because the defense got burned by the Eagles' passing attack, which we kind of early in the season went, where is it? Well, they found it. And that's a scary thing when you think about it. If the Eagles can start to throw the ball much better than what they have, and Barkley's going to get going at some point, they're a very dangerous football team. So the Vikings walk into this game with the Chargers. It's a Thursday night game, 7:15. What do you got fantasy-wise in this game on Thursday?
Well, let's get back to Carson Wentz. I mean, we've got 6 teams on bye: Detroit, Vegas, the Rams, Arizona, Seattle, and Jacksonville. So people are going to be looking all over for different options. If you're in a pinch, I think Carson Wentz has a chance to get you a couple of touchdowns with the weapons he possesses. The Chargers, to me, are not playing great defense right now, so you can start him. I don't think you start him with a lot of confidence. Jordan Mason, I think, will be okay. I don't think he'll be great, but I think Jordan Mason will get enough usage to put up valuable fantasy numbers. And then it comes down to Jefferson and Addison. And right now, I actually prefer Addison because of the way teams are approaching it, but Jefferson's going to get his. We know that. They're both good starts. And Hawkinson, to me, a fringe top 10 to 15 tight end. But right now with these bye weeks, Randy, you got to probably plug him in and play him.
Yep.
I don't love him, but he's okay. On the other side, for the Chargers, their quarterback is talented. We know that. He comes off a rough performance against the Colts. He was bad. And so Herbert, startable for sure. I mean, he's going to put up good numbers for you. He's good. Vidal is the back you want. And it's the guy that's catching footballs, the guy that's getting, 75% of the snaps. So Kamani Vidal is the running back for the Chargers you want. And frankly, Vikings are not always easy to run on. Ask Saquon Barkley, who was really limited last week, but Vidal is going to catch some balls and be fantasy relevant. 3 receivers to deal with. Ladd McConkey at the top of the list, Keenan Allen, Quinshon Johnston. Listen, pick your spots because none of these guys are ever going to be Jamar Chase. They're never going to own the game, Randy, but they're all, I think, startable. And then the hot waiver wire pickup this week is going to be Oronde Gadsden. We've talked about this guy. The Chargers coaches during training camp were all over this guy, and he popped last week, 7 for 164 and a touchdown. Don't expect those numbers to be, regular and normal, but certainly in a tight end wasteland, Gadsden's usable. So over 45, Chargers are a 3.5-point favorite. Feels like a must-win for the Vikings, and then for fantasy purposes, I think there'll be enough points to feel confident here.
I feel like this is a week where it's going to be hard to find top-rated receivers just because a lot of them are on the bye. St. Brown and JSN and Pakua's hurt, but Devontae Adams. This is a week for maybe running backs to look at the running back situation and then maybe build some value receivers around running backs just because there's not a lot of big time receivers playing this week because of the bye. So, all right, I'm going to go to Miami and Atlanta. It's a noon game on Sunday. The number's 45.5. Falcons are 7.5, 8-point favorites. I have no idea how Mike McDaniel still has a job in Miami. This thing is a total disaster, train wreck. It's a mess. And it looks like it on the field. They're playing like it on the field. I don't think there's one player other than Achan. And, you play him because he's getting volume, right? But I just don't know. I mean, Atlanta's not a great team, but they're a good team. And they blew it against the 49ers. They had a chance to show that they're in this mix in the NFC. Didn't play well enough, obviously, to do that. I think they'll come out and just bomb Miami this week. So there's not a Dolphin here that I really feel very good about at all. However, on the other side, you need to play Bijan because running backs against Miami are a thing. They are a thing. So Bijan is my number one player this week. Judkins crushed them last week for Cleveland. And I think Bijan's going to have a big day. And I think they'll be ahead, which means they'll run the ball. You can look at Tyler Algier as a value running back this week to get into the end zone. Maybe not a lot of yards, but get into the end zone. I just think this is a game where the Falcons are going to come out of play. Now, Penix is banged up a little bit. Keep an eye on the wire. It's possible Cousins could play. Wow. And even if Cousins plays, I still think Atlanta will be conservative and will take advantage of their ground attack. And I love the Atlanta defense this week too. I think the Atlanta defense is a smart defense to play against a beleaguered Miami team. So having said all that, you can stack Penix in London if you want to do that. But I think Bijan is the player this week in fantasy football. All right, let's move on. It's the Jets and the Cincinnati Bengals this week. It's a noon start.
Bengals are a 6.5-point favorite. The over-under is 44.5. I really enjoyed these last couple of days being in New York City and hearing the sports radio in town. They are so down on the New York Jets right now, and for good reason. That game last weekend was atrocious. It might be Fields. It might be Tyrod Taylor. You don't want either. You just don't. I know Fields can run, but it it's terrible. Like the Jets are so bad. Brees Hall not doing much, and again they're in chase mode, so he'll get you some volume. He'll catch a few footballs. You don't love him, but in a week where you're missing a lot of really good players with all the bye weeks, sure you can start Brees Hall. Keep an eye on Garrett Wilson's health. Right now he's got a knee issue. He didn't play last week, and that's not helping anybody's cause, including Brees Hall. So if he doesn't go, I mean, it's just going to be ugly.
And I hate to say this, but it's another example, Kevin, of taking players, very good players, on weak teams. It just seems like this happens all the time, where we get into week 7, week 8, week 9, the season's a disaster, and then these players get hurt. It's just, there's kind of a rule of thumb. Try to take the players that are on good teams, because that's where, don't you think? I mean,
I do.
This is just another example of that.
I mean, can you imagine if Gibbs and Achin switch spots? I mean, he's the same player. And Gibbs goes off every week on a great football team, to your point.
Right.
And Achin's stuck down there in Miami. And a lot of weeks like last week, he doesn't score because he's got a terrible team that's never in the red zone. I mean, they're the same player. And so, it is. Yeah. It's a great rule of thumb for fantasy players. And when you're playing daily, this isn't even, we're not talking about drafts back in August. We're talking right now. Yeah. When you're playing daily fantasy, migrate to the teams that you think are going to win and put up points, because those players always seem to succeed. And so this Jets team, you're likely not going to want anybody else. I know their tight end Mason Taylor has talent, but again, last week 3 catches, 31 yards. You can't do anything with that. So avoid the Jets. The Bengals you can fire up. My only concern is they're going to get a lead, and they might not be really aggressive with their offense, specifically their passing game. But Flacco last week, 342 and 3 touchdowns. He's definitely found something here, which is crazy at age 40. Chase Brown, 11 carries, 108 yards, couple of catches. He's showing signs of life. I think he's in for a good week. I like the matchup a lot. You can run on this Jets team, and they're going to be in front. So I expect a pretty good volume for Chase Brown. I mean, I don't know what to tell you about Jamar Chase, Randy. I mean, 23 targets. It's video game numbers. 16 catches, 161 yards. Like, this is unbelievable.
That's a season for some guys.
It actually is. So, Jamar Chase, you're so happy that Joe Flacco showed up, because he had really struggled. When you look at where he was drafted, it just wasn't working out with Browning, and now he's back to being the guy we know he is. T. Higgins, fire him up, 6 for 96 and a touchdown. And even Noah Fant, their tight end, got in the end zone, had 4 catches for 44 yards. So you'll take those 14.5 points any week with your tight end. And so Noah Fant is absolutely startable. Bengals win big. I've got like a 34-10 type of game. So again, I think it's a great opportunity to use some of those good players we talked about, but I don't know if the Jets are going to push them enough where they're going to get a lot of activity in the fourth quarter.
All right, let's move on. Cleveland, New England. It's a noon start. The number's 40.5. The Patriots are 7.5, 8-point favorites. Hey, the Browns scored 31 last week. They played Miami. That's one of the reasons why. Give their defense a lot of credit, though. I think their defense really won that football game against the Dolphins last week. I know Judkins, he's arrived, right? The guy's just a stud. He's a player. And
you called that one, dude.
For everybody who got shy about it because of all of his legal issues early on, it's just, what a payoff this has been to have stashed him away and have him now. You could have drafted him late in your drafts and just sat with him. And my gosh, he's just been such a player. 25 carries last week, 3 rushing touchdowns. He's a top 10 back. New England's defense is decent. So it's not going to be like it was playing Miami, but I think he's definitely worth playing. I think he's the only Cleveland Brown, honestly, offensively, that's worth playing this week. On the Patriots side, Drake May has had 7 straight 200-yard plus passing games. He had a high of 62 yards rushing last week. He's a top 8 quarterback. He's just playing fantastic football. And the Patriots are finding their groove right now and stacking with Butte, man. I picked this guy up in a number of leagues a couple of weeks ago. He's a young guy. He's finding a way to get open and make big plays. And there's a chemistry there. You can see it. Hunter Henry was that early in the year. It's not so much Hunter Henry now. It's more Butte. The running back situation, look, Travion Henderson is marginally is really borderline droppable. I think you could almost pull the plug because Ramondre Stevenson is the guy. He's getting all that work, right? But the Browns defense is really good. So this is a tricky game this week and as to how much you really want to play. I mean, the number is really low. And if it stays that way, there's not a lot of offense on the Patriots side for fantasy to really justify jumping all in on New England. So if it's me and I'm playing it, Drake May's probably the only guy I'm looking at. And I don't know if I feel confident stacking him with somebody. It might be one of those play Drake May kind of naked this week in daily, but there's certainly some pieces here, but you're going to have some faith if you're going to play those guys. The Giants and Philadelphia. It's a noon start on Sunday. And the Giants, by the way, they're a good football team. They're just some bad, well, against Denver. I don't know if it's bad luck. They just played terrible in the fourth quarter. But you see signs of life, right? That this Giants team. And if Malik Neighbors was healthy,
can you imagine?
I can't imagine. So anyway, take it away.
Yeah, the Giants really, I mean, they've lost some heartbreakers this year. I mean, some brutal games. The game in Dallas, the game last week defies logic.
And it's your club. It's your Broncos.
And I'm thrilled the Broncos won, but they played
33 points in the fourth quarter. My God.
Unbelievable. And so for fantasy purposes, here's a matchup with Philadelphia that has potential. The over-under is 44.5. Philadelphia is favored by 7.5. And the Giants have the juice right now on offense. They've got these two young guys, starting with Jackson Dart, the quarterback, who last week provided 4 touchdowns, 3 through the air, 1 on the ground. And Denver has a damn good defense. So
he's really
I know
good.
you get nervous when you're in Philadelphia against this team, and I get that. But Jackson Dart is so good. And another player that you really talked about well before he kind of arrived, and he's brought some energy to this football team. So absolutely, you can start him. Cam Scadable's kind of the same thing. Like, this guy brings energy. Yep. He's a beast, scores every week. So yes, those two guys start for sure. Wan'Dale Robinson, sneaky start here. You know, they're going to be in chase mode. He had 6 for 95 against Denver last week. He's a big play guy, and I think he could be a guy that could provide some nice stability at that position. As you mentioned, some key receivers on bye. Keep an eye on Theo Johnson. I talked about him during training camp, and I've been waiting for this guy to pop, and maybe Jackson Dart can unlock something here. Last week, he only had 3 catches, but he did have 66 yards and a touchdown, and I think Philadelphia is a little bit susceptible to the tight ends. We thought maybe Hawkinson had one there, but keep an eye on Theo Johnson as a cheap option in daily. On the Philadelphia side, you're going to fire up Jalen Hurts. He's a top 5 quarterback every single week. I don't know what's happened to Saquon Barkley, Randy. You watched that game, and I've got him in a couple guillotine teams, and I'm telling you right now, I'm petrified because this guy doesn't look the same. What is wrong with Saquon?
You know, I think it's a combination of their offensive line not really getting the push that they got last year and just no explosive plays. I mean, he's just not able to burst. And, you know, it's kind of unfair because he had such an incredible year that we're expecting that again this year. That to me was one in a generation kind of season for a running back. So it's a little bit, you know, impossible to repeat it, right?
For sure.
But he's not even close to being 75% of what he did last year. So yeah, you're right. It's a struggle, and the Giants are a decent defense. So yeah, it could be another tough week for them running the football.
You know, I've got a friend that keeps complaining that he's going to bench this guy. And I'm like, you can't bench him before you drafted him.
No.
But this is another week where if I'm playing daily fantasy, I'm not spending the money on Saquon Barkley. You can start him, and hopefully you get him in the end zone at least once. But the good news for Philadelphia is the receivers have come to life.
Yes.
A.J. Brown with some big plays, unfortunately, against the Vikings. 4 catches only, but 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the Slim Reaper, Devonta Smith, 9 for 183 and a touchdown. He is a big play guy. They're coming alive. Dallas Goedert's been solid. So you can start all those Eagles. I think the Eagles win this game. I think there'll be some points scored, and I think it's a good fantasy option this week with all the other teams. I
think it's a good stackable game for the Eagles side of the passing attack. And I think everybody has a lot more confidence in that after watching them dismantle the Vikings pass defense this last week too. All right, let's move on. Buffalo, Carolina. It's a noon start on Sunday. The number's good, 47.5. The Bills are close to an 8-point favorite. Buffalo coming off the bye. Carolina without their starting quarterback. He is going to be out this week. Bryce Young with an injury. So who knows what that kind of looks like. I think it's a big win for the Bills, first of all. So I like the Bills side. It's hard to put Josh Allen with a receiver because no one clearly stands out. If Kincaid were to come back, you'd look at that, but I don't know what his status is going to be come Sunday. They've been on the bye, so who knows? Maybe he will be back. But I think Cook is a great choice against a Carolina defense that is susceptible to the run. I think Josh Allen playing him naked as a daily fantasy quarterback is a good move. He's pricey. That makes it a little bit more difficult. But in this week where value at receiver may pay off more, then maybe you can look at a Josh Allen as your quarterback. But I like the Bills side of this, and I like their defense this week too, especially with Bryce Young banged up, likely not playing. I think it's a good place to play the Bills defense. On the other side, after starting 1-3, Panthers are 4-3. So you got to give them some credit, right? I mean, Xavier Legette is playing fantastic right now. He's a cheap receiver. Look at him, Tet McMillan, those two guys together. I think we can now see what the vision was in Carolina with these two guys, because they both look like they're going to be very good football players down the road. The running back thing's a split. Go ahead, pick one or the other. I think Dowdle's the better player right now than Hubbard, but it doesn't interest me this week. There's really nothing on the Carolina side that interests me. And like I said before, I think it's Josh Allen and it's Cook this week for me. All right, let's move on. We've got Chicago, the Bears at Baltimore. Kind of an interesting game. It's a noon start on Sunday.
Yeah, the Bears are starting to look like they're going to be at least, I mean, they're a contender right now. And, they did it last week without their quarterback having a big game. I mean, Caleb Williams, no touchdowns, only 172 yards. So I look for a bounce back. They're going to have to throw the ball to have success against the Ravens, and teams, for the most part this year, have been able to do that. Swift with a huge game last week, 19 carries for 124 yards and a tutty. Start him, start Caleb, start Roma Dunze, who's the go-to guy, and he's gone quiet the last 2 weeks. And I look for this, Randy, when a go-to guy, whether it's a Jefferson or an Odunze, goes quiet for a couple of weeks, there's going to be some conversation of getting him more involved in the offense. I look for him to kind of bounce back in a big way. That's it for the receivers for me. I know they've got DJ Moore. They've got that Luther Burden cat, that youngster. I'm not going to dabble there. I'm going to throw a name out for people that might be desperate on the waiver wire. Kyle Monange is a running back that plays behind Swift, and Swift's been a little banged up the last couple of weeks. Swift's the guy, and it's kind of like Algier in Atlanta, which was a nice tout by you. Might be a guy to stash on your bench, or if you have to use a guy to maybe score a touchdown on a plunge, he might be able to get you that. It's a name. You're not going to use him in daily, though, for me. I'm going to avoid that. Yep. Lamar Jackson did not practice today, so we got to keep an eye on his status. I know they're planning on him returning this week, but until you see that happen, I wouldn't build a lot of daily lineups with Ravens until you know he's starting, because without him, they have no chance. I mean, as far as fantasy relevance, Cooper Rush is not the answer. So for now, Derrick Henry, I'm good. 24 rushes for 122 yards 2 weeks ago before the bye. Zay Flowers is still a stud. And then you just avoid their tight ends. Likely and Andrews cancel each other out. The whole key for me is Lamar Jackson. If he plays, I can stack Lamar with Zay Flowers. I could even throw Derrick Henry in there, because the Bears are cool. They're having a nice run. But if Lamar plays, this is a must-win for Baltimore. They're 1-5. And if you look at the betting markets, they're still a 50-50 prop to make the playoffs. So the people that book these bets think they're going to make a big run here in the second half, which means they could run over the Bears here. And then you're going to want to stack some Ravens if Lamar plays.
That is only if Lamar plays.
Correct.
That's the key. All right.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. My dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic Home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North, and a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
Aquarius Home Services takes water treatment to an all-star level with the Connecticut water treatment system. And now get up to 25% off with 6-month no payments and no interest financing for qualified buyers. It's a great deal for worry-free water for drinking, worry-free water for cleaning, laundry, showers, dishes, and more. And all of this with on-demand efficiency that uses zero electricity. Trust me, it is life-changing. Find out more at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended. 10K Construction is your one stop for all your general contracting needs, whether interior, exterior, residential, commercial, or multifamily properties. They build relationships with their clients, and that's how they've grown their business through referrals. Plus, they are teaming up with LP SmartSide to become Minnesota's premier siding installer. And they're also partnering with IKO Shingles as well. They've got the best of the best to do the job right. 10K Construction covers both Minnesota and Wisconsin. Now, the rumor is they charge a little extra because it's Packer land. I'm not sure about that. But what I am sure about, 10K Construction is the company you want handling all of your general contracting needs. Go to 10kconstruction.com for details.
Hey, Rosie here for Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. If you're in the market for a new luxury vehicle, look no further than my good friend Charlie Swanson at Lexus. Whether you're on the west or the east side of the Twin Cities, they have got you covered with 2 great locations, Lexus of Wayzata and Lexus of Maplewood. Check out the all-new Lexus TX, a spacious SUV with 3 rows of seating and plenty of room for all your gear. Head over to lexusofwayzata.com or lexusofmaplewood.com for details and to find your next ride today.
Last game of the noon teams, San Francisco is at Houston. Noon start on Sunday. The number's 43.5. The Texans are a favorite right now, slight favor, about 1.5, 1 point. It surprises me that they are. However, 49ers, kind of a dull win over Atlanta on Sunday night, but it's a win. We're still waiting for Brock Purdy. Don't know if he's going to be back. Keep an eye out for it. Mac Jones has done a really nice job. On the San Francisco side, I mean, CMC is really, he's an automatic start, and he's really the only guy that I have faith in when I look at the 49ers offense when it comes to fantasy football. Yes, Kittle came back. They didn't even hardly target the guy. Maybe that was by design. Maybe he's just not quite ready, but they gave him the game action and he did play. I look for him to bounce back this week and have a decent game against Houston. But really for me on the 49ers side, there's really not a lot to love in this game. However, if it's a close game back and forth, then I can see McCaffrey having he's such a great receiver, having such a big impact on this game. On the Texans side, they're coming off a bye. They're rested. They're going to face a pretty decent 49ers defense. I can see playing Stroud and Collins. I can see stacking those two. I think that's a sneaky stack. I don't think a lot of people will look at that and say, yeah, I'll get a couple of touchdowns out of those two together. It's a combo that makes sense, I think. But if you're looking for a big day against a 49er defense, I don't see it right now. And I don't think the Texans are playing well enough to say, yeah, this looks like a get well spot for Houston. Their running back situation is a muddled mess. Woody Marks and the running back that played Chubb, I'm sorry. There's just not one here that I like. So I guess looking at this game, CMC is really the only one I have any faith in. And I guess that kind of makes sense when you look at the number and you look at where this is sitting. 3:00 games. some good ones. We'll start with Tampa at New Orleans.
Yeah, I actually prefer the 3:00 games
Yes, sir.
in
I
my
do
daily
too.
matchups this week. And this is one of the games I'm going to look at. Tampa at New Orleans. Tampa's a 5.5-point favorite currently. The over-under is 47.5, so one of the bigger numbers. Baker Mayfield had a tough night on Monday Night Football. I'm looking for a big bounce back out of him. And then the backfield. Let's talk about the running backs. There are question marks already. Will Bucky Irving come back? Will he get back in that starting role? He's a really electric player when he plays. And so keep an eye on that, because if Bucky Irving plays, he's the only running back you want. If he doesn't, Rachaad White still becomes a thing. And I don't think he's nearly as talented, but he gets the volume to be relevant. So really monitor that, and we'll follow back with you on Friday like we always do. The receivers, well, here's the big news. Mike Evans now with a broken collarbone is out for the year. So
break.
now it's a bad break, and he's had that record that was, running with all the big points he had been putting up. So now you at least know, if you're a fantasy owner, if you had him or if you have other shares of Tampa Bay, that he's gone. So Igbuka is a big-time player. He's a top 5, top 10 guy every week. Fire him up. Cade Otton, their tight end right now, is, for me, a very solid
Getting
start.
some volume.
He is, and rightfully so. He's a good player. And then Tez Johnson, the Tez dispenser, as I call him, he could be a thing here now. With Evans out and Igbuka now really getting a lot of attention from defenses. Tez Johnson had a serviceable game on Monday Night Football, and he looks like a player that could have a really good second half. So if he's available in your league, I recommend you get him and take a chance on him. In daily, he's a cheap option. Tez Johnson, I think a real nice tout there for Tampa. On the New Orleans side, say what you want about Rattler, but you made the point last week, Randy. This guy is putting up fantasy relevant numbers every single week, and they're in chase mode, and they're at home in a controlled environment,
and they're
indoors.
competitive.
So
they're competitive.
they are.
Yes.
They are, for a bad football team. They are, unlike the Jets and the Dolphins. They don't quit.
Not
competitive. They keep playing, and so kudos to this coaching staff. I'm worried about Alvin Kamara. He's been such a great player for all of us that have been in fantasy. He just isn't the same guy anymore. So I'm going to avoid him. I'm focusing in on some of the ball catchers. Chris Olave, I just made a trade for him in our league.
I saw it
in the Talk North League.
Smart.
And I'm bullish on this guy. I think he is really showing the talent he has. 5 for 98 and 2 tutties last week. Jawan Johnson, even though Taysom Hill's returned, he's still putting up good numbers. 5 catches, 79 yards last week. So those are the players you want to focus in on. We've talked about Rashid Shaheed. He's a dart throw. He's a prayer to the wind. He'll catch a big, long touchdown every 3 or 4 games, but not a guy you're going to want to start. I think Tampa wins the game. I think it's going to be a super competitive game, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. So in daily, feel good about both sides.
All right. Dallas, Denver. It's a 3:25 start on Sunday. It's a big number, 48.5. The Broncos are a 2.5-point favorite. Big number, and I think you can play a ton of players on both sides of this game, even though the Broncos, as Kevin said, have a very good defense. They also can give up a lot of stuff too. So on the Cowboys side, Dak, Ferguson, Lamb in the conversation as maybe the best offense in the league right now, the way they're playing right now. I think that you've got to look at those 3 guys and figure out, how do I get those guys in my lineup this week? Ferguson is the pick of the year as a tight end. He's had 6 touchdowns in the last 4 games. The other part of that is Javonte Williams, because he's going back to Denver. He's healthy. He's playing well. This could be one of those games where maybe the Cowboys, in situations, will try to get him the ball just to kind of feed him a little bit in a game like this. Could be a nice revenge spot. Dallas is in the chase in the NFC, so this is a monster game for them. The bad part about the Cowboys is their defense is not very good. And so, to me, the best side of this game is the Broncos, without doubt. I think Bo Nix, personally, is the best quarterback to start this week in fantasy football against this Cowboys defense. And you can play him naked in daily if you want to. You can put him with Cortland Sutton. You can throw in Ingram. I think when you play against the Dallas defense, there's going to be a ton of points scored in the game.
Yep.
And I think it's a game that goes back and forth. And so to me, this is the game to stack this week. I'm so glad it's not a Monday 6:00 or a Sunday
Right.
7, because there's a lot to like in here. But to me, Bo Nix against the Cowboy defense, sign me up. I'm in. 32 plus fantasy points last week, 4 touchdowns. That fourth quarter was incredible against the Giants. There might be a hangover from that a little bit with Denver this week, so keep an eye on that. But certainly play him. I mean, Dobbins had 14 carries, had 81 yards. Harvey's getting some playing time, but Dobbins is really the guy. In fact, Dobbins is kind of a sneaky guy this week to play at the running back spot, and he's not very expensive. But to me, pick and choose in this game because they're all over the place. And I can see if this game holds true to form, that it's a 48, 49, 50 total point kind of game.
Easily.
You can stack so many guys on both sides of the ball that if you can survive through the noon games in daily where you're competitive, maybe you pick the right guy in the noon games that has a good big game, right? And you get to the 3:00 and you stack this game and it goes off. Wow. That could be, you're going to pass so many people that don't think that way. To me, this is the game of the week for fantasy. You've got Tennessee, Indianapolis. It's a 3:25 start.
I got to be honest. These are the kind of games that kind of cringe when I see because they're going to be so one-sided. And if you're still alive in Survivor, and I was in 4 Survivors, I'm down to 2, and I've got Indy in both. This is a free space in the bingo card from all direction. 14.5 point favorite, 47.5. Tennessee stinks, and I don't know how they're going to be competitive. In fantasy, though, we need Tennessee to be competitive for just a little while to let the weapons for Indy have their time. Cam Ward, not startable, a disaster. Pollard and Spears in the backfield. Listen, I don't like Pollard at all. I think Spears is going to take over this backfield sooner rather than later. So if I'm forced to use a cheap option, of the 2, I prefer Spears. I don't know what the hell is going on with their receivers. I've never heard of Shamir Dyke, but the Dyke had 4 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. So we're happy for that guy. But avoid the Titans. That's my rule of thumb.
Yep.
Problem is, what is Indy going to do? They're going to be up 21-0 here at half.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, to a point, but you don't want to run him into the ground. And so Daniel Jones, I'm going to plug my nose and start him. Taylor, yes. Taylor's going to do what he always does, which is score. He's just incredibly good at football. 3 touchdowns last week. Tyler Warren, for my money, the best tight end in football. The way they use him, if I'm being honest, that's the guy I want. I've got him in a couple of guillotines, and I love him. Receivers, Michael Pittman continues to be the favorite target at that position for Daniel Jones, 7 for 58 and a tutty. If you're desperate, Alec Pierce is a cheap option. But again, I don't think the game flow is going to favor secondary receivers like Alec Pierce, who went for nearly 100 yards last week. Indy big. I'm going to say final score something like 34-7. And so hope that your starters stay in long enough.
It's a good game to have the Indianapolis defense. If you play defenses and maybe your defense is on a bye and the Colts are available, I definitely would say jump on that this week. All right, let's move to the Sunday night game. It's the Packers against the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers will be hosting his old team this week. Perfect Sunday night game. 46.5 is the number. The Steelers, 3.5 point favorite. That's a big number, the Steelers, to be that big of a favorite. It surprises me. On the Packers side, Josh Jacobs just continues to be the touchdown machine. 2 touchdowns in 3 straight games. It's top 5 back. Play him. Yeah, the Steelers are, I think their reputation is more than what they really are defensively, but they're still good. And so, you got to play Jacobs. Jordan Love is playable. Not sure who to play him with. It's the same conversation every week. Tucker Kraft has gone quiet. But you certainly can try to mix and match something there. But Jacobs is the guy. The Packers defense interests me. Micah Parsons has been on a roll, 3 sacks and 4 tackles for loss last week. Watch out, Aaron Rodgers. That could be an interesting part of that football game. but I think Jacobs is the clear guy on the Green Bay side. You know, I've picked up Aaron Rodgers in 3 or 4 of my leagues as a backup quarterback because I can no longer ignore the fact that he's getting 2 touchdowns a game. I can't. And his bye week is over. So pick him up and hold on to him and just see what happens. And the Steelers are letting him play. So can you play him this week? Sure. You can play him. It's kind of sneaky. Nobody thinks is the Steelers pass attack, but Green Bay is vulnerable on defensively. So yeah, I can see playing him. And the number, I think, justifies that you can play him at 46.5. I love DK and him together. That stack is the only one that makes any sense if you're going to play Rodgers. It looks like Jaylen Warren's reclaimed the backfield number 1 role, the RB1. So 127 yards on the ground, 31 yards receiving last week. It was the Bengals. So, put that in quotes. But Jaylen Warren, I think, is definitely a guy that you can play this week and is sneaky. To me, it's a fun game for Sunday Night Football. It means a lot for both teams. I'm not sure it's the greatest fantasy spot to play players. But the beauty of it is it's not on the main slate. So you play it separate and you just let it be its own self, or you couple it with the Monday night game. So to me, I'm glad this game is not on the main slate. It takes away some decisions that I would have to make in this football game. Kevin's got the last one. It's Washington. Ooh, good game. It depends, I guess, if Jaden Daniels plays, but Washington at Kansas City Monday night, rather, the only game on Monday night at 7:15.
Yeah, Kansas City, a 10.5-point favorite. I mean, who would have thought this as recent as a few weeks ago?
Don't you think it's Jaden Daniels' injury, though? That's the reason why.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Total's 47.5. And listen, Mariota, in a pinch, is not a terrible option. I mean, we prefer Jaden Daniels.
Right.
He's a stud. But Mariota's been okay in his stead. The other question marks, and they've got so many injuries on offense, both Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin are hurt. So you're going to have to really monitor their practice work if they have any practice work this week, because without them, their offense is in a world of hurt.
And I think that's the part of the problem too. You're right.
Yeah. So, we love Bill, Jacory, Krofsky, Merritt, the running back, but if you don't have those big receivers to take some pressure off with the defense, I don't know what he's going to do against a very stout run defense from Kansas City. Zach Ertz is a serviceable tight end. He's likely going to get a lot of work here if 1 or 2 of those guys that we talked about at the receiver position miss. So I would use some trepidation on the Washington side. Kansas City, you can fire up Patrick Mahomes. He's been brilliant. In the backfield, I am avoiding Pacheco and Hunt, even though
Smith.
And now you got Brashard Smith. He's in the mix. It's to me, it's too messy. You can throw a dart, though, in daily fantasy. That's the beauty of daily. You play multiple lineups in these contests. You can have a couple of lineups and mix in that guy or mix in the back you like and hope they go off. Rashee Rice came back and was awesome. Almost had 3 touchdowns, got 2 touchdowns, had 7 catches. For me, though, with Rice being as relevant as he's certainly going to be, Randy, I love Worthy. But now I have to temper my affection there because Rice is getting involved in all of these packages.
Right.
Worthy is still a fringe starter. Travis Kelce is a tight end you're absolutely going to lean on. And then Hollywood Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, I just don't – there are too many cooks in that kitchen. So I'm focusing
he was good.
on –
Hollywood was a good choice last week because Rice, we didn't know what Rice was going to do, and he actually caught one. But I think
did get one.
Going forward, I don't think he's a usable guy.
Mahomes, Rice, and Kelce are where I'm focusing. And I think KC, obviously, I think they win the football game, but I think it's going to – I don't think this is a great game to focus on. I'm glad it's on Monday and not on the main slate. This feels like a 27-14 kind of game, which isn't going to make anybody thrilled in fantasy.
All right. Very good. Let's talk about our PPR choices for this week. This is my fantasy lineup. If I had the ability to put all these guys into a team, I'm, like I said earlier, I'm all in on Bo Nix this week against Dallas. Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton, I'm going to stack. This is a week where I am going to pay big, and you'll see that in my daily. I'm going all big on running backs this week. Bijan and Jonathan Taylor.
Wow.
Yeah. I just think those two guys, this is the week. They're playing teams in which they should dominate. They're going to get a volume, I think, at least to start with, and hopefully 3 touchdowns in the first half kind of a game, if that's what it turns out to be. Great. I love Olave this week. I like that New Orleans game. Dallas Goedert, I think, is a sneaky choice this week at tight end. You mentioned him. I like him. And I'm going to go, my flex guy, I'm going to go with J.K. Dobbins. I'm going to go against that Dallas team. I think he's sneaky. I think he gets 1. He could even get 2 this week against Dallas. I think it's going to be a shootout. So that's my lineup. Nix and Robinson, Taylor, Sutton, Olave, Goddard, and J.K. Dobbins.
I smiled right away because my running backs are exactly the same in my best PPR lineup. I've got Bijan and Jonathan Taylor. I think they're both worth paying up for. Yep. They're both incredibly consistent. I stacked Mahomes with Rashid Rice. I think that's a nice stack.
Smart.
I think it's going to be consistent. They're going to score. And I think Rice is going to be, with the fresh legs, the guy they lean on here in the second half of the season as they try to win that division. I think they absolutely can. Tucker Kraft's my tight end. And you know, he's been a little hit or miss, but he's still, to me, a freaky talent. And I love his quarterback, no pun intended. So I think Kraft's going to give you good numbers. Solid. I snuck Jordan Addison in there, and I looked at Jordan Addison's 3 games since coming back. 24.8, 15.1, and 18.4
Smart
fantasy points. Almost 20 points a game, Randy. So yes, fire up Jordan Addison. My flex guy was Jamar Chase. I'm believing in Joe Flacco. And if that's the case, if he's going to be anything close to what he had with Joe Burrow, then Chase is going to be a machine in fantasy. That's my best lineup. Mahomes, Rice, with Addison and Chase, with Kraft and Bijan and Jonathan Taylor, just like you, as my stud backs.
All right, let's go to our daily lineup this week, FanDuel pricing. This is my thought process. Bijan and Jonathan Taylor together. Bijan's 10,000, Taylor's 10.2.
Oh.
So if I start with that, and this is, it's a crazy lineup, okay? I admit this.
Wow.
But if I start with that, this is what I got. Rattler quarterback, because I like that game. And I put him with Rashid. Yeah, I know he's a dart throw. But I could get lucky with that combination. It's possible, right?
For sure.
I love Devonta Smith this week against the Giants.
Love him.
So he's 6,700. Tez Johnson at 5,700. He's replacing Mike Evans. I like that possibility. My tight end, I want a piece of the Denver game. It's going to be Ingram. Again, fingers crossed. Hopefully I can get something to go there. My flex is weak. It's Pollard. It's 5,700. I know.
But he might get a touchdown.
If I had a better choice, I'd take it. And one of the reasons why I ended up at that is because I love the Atlanta defense this week against Miami, and they're a little bit pricey at 4,100. So here's my lineup: Rattler at 6,600, Bijan at 10,000, Taylor at 10,2, Rashid is at 5,700, Devonta's at 6,700, Tez Johnson's at 5,700, Ingram at 5,300 at tight end, Pollard at 5,700, and the Atlanta defense at 4,100. This is not a balanced lineup, okay?
No.
But I said this earlier on this show. If you look at the receivers that are available, the high-priced go-to receivers, they're really not there this week in the main slate on FanDuel. So if they're not there, I'm not going to force it. I'm going to go the other way and stack the 2 best running backs, hope for a monster game from both, and then get lucky somewhere on my value receivers. Kevin, what do you got?
I love it. Mine's a little more balanced. We'll have some similarities, but I'll start at the quarterback position. You love Bo Nix. I love Bo Nix. I love the matchup.
Yep.
I think the game's going to shoot out. 7,800 for Bo Nix. I'm absolutely going to find a receiver to tie to him, and it's going to be my go-to guy, Cortland Sutton, 7,700. So I've got Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton. So then I had to find some value. Chris Olave is only 6,600. I think New Orleans can score some points. I like your Rattler play. Olave is my wide receiver number 2. Like you, I found Tez Johnson, $5,700. Tampa team that for sure is going to throw the football at New Orleans indoors. I love Tez this week. At the running back position, I wanted at least a stud, and I got that in James Cook. At Carolina, who's got a bad run defense, and Buffalo's going to be playing from in front. I think James Cook has a huge game. I spent $8,200 on him. Here comes Tyjae Spears. Again, like you, I had to find a cheap option. So I stuck in Tyjae Spears at $5,300, just hoping against all hope he gets a touchdown. That leaves me with
I
the
hate
Atlanta.
to say it, but that's worse than Pollard, by the way.
I don't know that it is. And in fact, that'll be a fun game within the game as we throw our money at FanDuel this week. I'm not certain that's the case, but either way, we're both up against it because Indy's going to kill them.
Right.
I had to have the Atlanta defense. I thought, just like you, that defense against Miami, they are going to lick their chops, and Miami is so checked out right now. I'm all in on the Falcons. And so I took the best option available at my flex position, and that was Rome Odunze, who I think could have a really nice bounce back game at 7,300. Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, Chris Olave, Tez Johnson, James Cook, Tyjae Spears, Falcons D, Odunze, and I forgot my tight end. Oh yeah, my guy Tyler Warren, $7,200 in Indy. I love my lineup. I need Tyjae Spears though to do something that he hasn't done in a long time, which is score double-digit fantasy points. Come on, Tyjae.
All right. Love it. All right. That's it for this week. Again, 6 teams on the bye: the Lions, Las Vegas, the Rams, Arizona, Seattle, and Jacksonville. So a lot of movement on the waiver wire this week, not just for players, but also if you play in a league where you've got to play, obviously, a quarterback. Maybe you play 2 quarterbacks. You got to play a kicker. You got to play defense. A lot of moving parts this week, but good luck. Our thanks to Aquarius Home Services, 10K Construction, Minnesota Masonic Charities, and Lexus of Maplewood and Wayzata. Is it a beautiful day in Jersey City?
Lovely, sunny, 70 degrees. I don't know what Jersey City is going to provide. There's a good chance I hop on the ferry and head back to the big city to go see a Broadway show tonight.
Good for you.
And I can't wait to get back home tomorrow. Hopefully the rain is gone and we can get ready for some Vikings football when I get back to Minnesota.
All right. Thanks, Gorgie, very much. And thanks to everybody for watching this week's edition of Fantasy.